I am live. I am inviting Christine. Yay! And I think I figured this one out too. I just invited Leena. I see myself. I do not see you yet. It looks like it's still thinking. I can see her logo though. I think she turned her logo on. Is that right, Leena?
Yeah, I did because I wasn't sure what angle the camera was going to be when I joined. Um, but yeah, Christine, yours, I just see the circle.
Yeah, it just looks like it's thinking. Uh, oh, you know why? Because you requested to join and I invited you at the same time. So I think that there was a confusion. So I just accepted you. Hi, everybody. We're working out the kinks of everything, but we will be active soon and we're going to talk about world building.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry. Christina, looks like you're still thinking. Do you want to come back out or do you want to go out and I'll invite you back in? Oh, maybe she's just gone completely. There.
Oh yeah,
Hold on. She just asked to
it
be.
is afternoon for me.
It is. It is also afternoon. Okay, now she's gone. Have you done a live like this before? I know you've done lives where you're talking and stuff, but have you ever ran one? It's
I
wild.
haven't.
Like try.
I haven't done one with like another person. I've just done one where I just talked into the void.
Hi, can you hear
Hel-
me, see me?
yes.
Yay, I'm
Hello.
here. I think it's my terrible internet connection. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yeah. No,
Yeah.
Okay,
we can hear you fine.
we're good. We're good. Lena is like a spiral for me, but I
Oh
hear her,
no.
so I'm
Okay.
sure it'll come back.
Yeah.
We can hear you.
Okay, I have my logo on. I think I'm just gonna keep my camera off since
Yeah.
I'm kind of a spaz and it's just gonna be posted later. So
You were
No,
not
you're all good.
in the spazziness, but I don't think you're spazzy. I also feel spazzy most of my all the time. So
Hi, friends. Oh, we have so many people here already. This is
so
awesome. Hi,
exciting.
the literary mug, Raymond's Echo. Awesome. All right, should we kick it off? We have so much to talk about this week because everybody gave us so many amazing questions because we all want to hear what Lena has to teach
Oh
us
my
about world
gosh. Oh my
building.
gosh.
Uh, well, thank you guys all for coming to this week's coffee talk, writing coffee talk. Couple quick reminders before we get started. These videos are now on YouTube as well. We are trying to get them up there within a couple of days of the lives. And the lives going back, you can also find them all in our feeds. So if you want to go back and learn about writing romance, or I can't even remember the other things, just Indian trad publishing, you can go there.
yeah. Yep. Last week it took me about a couple of days to get on, but this week it'll be better because I have more time.
Awesome. Yeah. Yes, we're all just doing all of the things. So speaking of which, Kara, 30-second update. How has your week been? Or I guess past couple weeks since we were last on here.
Yeah. Well, Christine is now my editor. Woo-hoo! So she's gonna be copy editing and proofreading my book 2, which will be going out to ARCs June 10th. My street team, some of them have had first looks, which is insane because some of them are finishing it in one night, and I'm kind of like, how? Because they read real
Because it's
fast.
so good
That's
and it's like an easy
amazing.
read. Like you can just blow right through it. Like it's so good.
And then I started on my next novella, and I'm about 2,000 words in, so that'll be done sometime around July.
Nice. And Lena, what about you? You've got so much going on, I know.
Yeah, it's been crazy but good, I think. So this is my second book now. It's easier because I sort of kind of know what to do, whereas like the first
Mhm.
time I was just running like a chicken without a head. So yeah, no. So I chose this time to send the ARC copies to my street team and permanent ARC team first. So feedback has been coming in from them. It's been mind blowing, amazing. so overwhelmed. I've broken so many hearts. It's great.
The goal, always the goal.
And then just getting ready now for the regular ARC wave, which I'll send out mid to late June, I think. And I'm writing
Amazing.
another
And
book.
you have what, like 500 plus ARC readers already signed up? It's like the
Yes.
hottest ticket on Instagram.
Yes. Oh my goodness. I mean, I don't know about that, but it's just been awesome. And I know I think a lot of it is because my street team has been posting about how much they're enjoying it, and also, posting, here's where you can go sign up for a regular ARC. So I'm so grateful to them and so appreciative. Like it just, and it's just amazing to have that kind of feedback and like love for my characters.
Well,
So I'm really
I
grateful.
mean, I'm sorry.
Amazing.
I didn't mean to interrupt, but I did get a chance to beta her book, and it's fucking fantastic.
Same. It's insane. I mean, the first book was so good, but the second book is like ACOTAR book 2, like rip your heart out and put it back together. Yeah, maybe our next class can be a master class on ARCs. I mean, really, it's the two of you on that one, but maybe I can moderate it because I think I want to go down that tangent right now, but I know we have like 75 world building questions we have to answer, so definitely. Awesome. Okay, my quick 30-second update. I'm still on submission. I'll probably be on submission forever. This is just my life now.
No.
But I mean, I have my little editing side hustle that I started, which has been awesome. Actually, I posted about this last week, but one of my submission coaching clients, so helping people write their query letters and synopses and like edit their first pages. Literally, I sent her the edits. She accepted all of them so fast. She sent out her query letter and she got a full request within an hour and an offer within a day. And I think I like sobbed harder for her than I did for myself because she like, we all doubt ourselves. She wasn't sure if she could do it. And the fact that her book it's Vanessa Zion. She's written like 5 indie books. They're all amazing. So anyway, yeah, these ladies know her. And so good. So yeah, my big update is actually Vanessa's update, and then just chugging away on my contemporary romance.
You helped with that too, and you gave her confidence and everything. So it's good. It says something about you as a submissions person and an editor and everything. But it also, you gave her that support and that nudge. So it's important.
Yeah, I think it's just, evidence of this, right? Like us all being here talking. Indie Trad, we're going to have Vanessa on the next coffee talk to pick her brain about her journey. We're all just writers. Like we're all in supporting each other is how we all win. A rising tide lifts all ships. Let's hope that's true when it comes to our indie versus trad hot topic of the week. This might be the exception. Rather than the rule. You guys want to get into it?
Yeah. This is something that I could talk about for a few coffee talks, actually. But go ahead. Sorry.
I know. Can we keep it to 5 minutes is the question so we can get into world building. So every week we're trying to do this real quick, indie versus trad hot topic, because that's the whole purpose of this. I'm calling it a podcast, even though we're just live. To bring these two worlds together because really we're all in the same world. So the topic this week is the hot TikTok breaking news that a seemingly random dude on TikTok just got a 2-book deal from a Big 5 publisher, and he has never written a book. I don't think he's even written a chapter from what I understand. So let me just give you the hot goss background that I understand from TikTok, that about 6 months ago, this guy who, I think he was on The Bachelor, he's like, pseudo famous. He tried to get a book deal by submitting a book on proposal, a fiction fantasy book on proposal to a Big 5 publisher, which went unanswered, as it should, because that's not how the trad publishing industry works. So at least the rules applied to him then. So then he decided to go out on TikTok and get a huge following by being this cute sort of guy next door dude talking about how women love spicy books and how like baffling and I guess mind-blowing this is to him. And he got like a gazillion followers, and then he got an agent, and now he has a book deal, but he still has not written anything. Discuss.
I don't believe that for a second, honestly. I know what it's like. I know the back doors of indie publishing. I've gone through a small querying process, but my heart wasn't really into it. And nothing just happens like that. Nothing. And I think that a lot of companies or marketing people or something, they kind of curate those kinds of instances. So it does seem like a big success. Not saying that can't happen, but in my experience, I come from a place of where these academies were pumping like, write a book a month, you'll be a millionaire in 5 books. And they left out all kinds of stuff. So I think that it's more often than not curated. And I have more to talk, but I'm not going to say all kinds of stuff because I can talk about that for hours.
Yeah. Leena, what do you think?
I think it's hard. I think it's hard being an indie author, or just, you know, any author, whether you're indie or trad, right? And you put your soul into a manuscript, right? And you're out there hustling, waiting to get feedback, trying to find readers, trying to build interest, you know, in your book. And then, you know, something like that happens, and you want to try to not be mad about it, you know, but it hits a little different.
Yeah, it hits a little different. Someone made a really good point, and maybe this will be the last thing we say and we'll move on, that, you know, celebrities or pseudo celebrities have been getting nonfiction book deals forever. It's like, that's expected. But there's this new trend now where these like people who are like, you know, Instagram book talk famous but have never written are getting fiction book deals, right? Like Mr. Beast got this like James Patterson thriller book deal a few months ago. I don't know if you guys saw that. And now this. And so it's just sort of like, you know, to all of those fiction authors who are playing by the rules and have to play by the rules, and then see someone sort of get almost like a quick win. And also, like, right, like you said, writing a book is not easy. So to come out and say like, I can't wait to write this book, it's like it's hard. Like, it's not that easy. So yeah, like out. And but also like, dude, maybe it's going to be ghostwritten and you don't even realize that. So we'll see. I'm actually excited to follow the story and see how it unfolds. But I think it shook a lot of us this week to hear that story. So we shall see.
Yeah. Not to take away from some people's experience, like, again, there can be instances where things do blow up overnight for people. But those people that, again, in my experience that I've known that it blows up, it's not that they're new and they've just walked into the world of publishing. You know, they've been scraping the pavement for years.
Or like, you know, a book that exists.
Right.
Yeah.
Write the book and then get the book deal. And then I don't think any of us would be mad. I think it's more about the fact that he hasn't actually even written anything yet. It's like, strange.
Well, I get upset about that, not because that he hasn't written anything yet, because that gives people the false sense where you just, it's easy, right? Like, it's just like, oh, I just did this and bam, look at me. And that's what snags me. It's not easy for anybody.
So speaking of things that are not easy, even though we could literally talk about this for an hour, let's talk about world building. One of the least easy things that there is to do as a fantasy writer. We have so many amazing questions that you guys submitted and lots of folks submitted. I think we have about 20 questions. I don't know if we'll get through all of them. So we asked Leena to pick the ones that she was most excited to answer, because for those who don't know, Leena has written 2 full books. One is about to be released. One was already released late last year. And they have one of the most unique settings in a fantasy book that I've ever seen, I've ever read about. I think it really blew all of us away. So the first question we have, which I think is a great place to start, is just to hear about what was the inspiration for everyone's fantasy worlds. And specifically for Leena, how did you come up with the world of Al-Zahara? I don't even know if I'm saying that right, Al-Zahara. And what inspired the world? What cultures, religions, political systems? Like, how did you come up with all of this?
Yes. So first I want to say hi to Goblin and hi, Literary Mug. Thank you guys for joining. So if you've read the books, you would know that there's the landscape is a desert landscape for the most part. In the first book, we spend all our time mostly in the desert, and I just find the desert itself like separate from any country, just the environment kind of fascinating. It's so difficult to live there, you know, like it's that in itself is such a harsh environment, right? Like every day could be life or death. So I found that to be fascinating on its own, and I knew I wanted to write a world in that environment. The other thing that kind of influenced me to choose it is if you've read the books, there's a lot of references to food. I love Middle Eastern cuisine. It's one of my favorites. I eat all different varieties of it. And the food that we make in my house all the time is chicken and rice. So that really influenced me heavily, and I think it comes across in my writing. So I would say those are probably the two biggest things. One, I'm fascinated by the desert and Middle Eastern food.
It's what's amazing to me is how just those two sparks could birth this incredibly elaborate world, because like anyone who reads your books or even just picks it up and flips it open can see the map, right, of all these kingdoms with these exotic Middle Eastern sounding Arabic inspired names, and you know, the different political systems that you get into, the different like minor shifts in the landscape. So we'll get more into that, but it's like, I think this is a question that we have in here is like, if you don't know where to start or you find it overwhelming, where do you get started? And it's like one or two things can really be like the spark of inspiration. So Kara, what was it for you? You have I think two different worlds kind of going on in your book, as do I. So talk to us about that.
Mine's a little bit more complex. I guess it's not that Leena's isn't complex. I mean, like the explanation is like really long. So I'm trying not to jump back to 15 years ago. But I really wanted to go to college, and I was always told that I couldn't go to college for whatever specific reasons, and so then I went to college, and I was in my 30s, so that was really where the independence need for the main character to go to college. However, my book isn't a dark academia. They're just in school. They're barely in college. It's just sort of a gateway for independence for Caitlin, my main character. And I have a really strange sense of media that I've absorbed over my 45 years. So between Buffy and Gilmore Girls, and Parks and Rec, and yeah, all of that. This is sort of how my world came about. But I really wanted it to be rooted in like the magical system, to be different than I'd seen before. So 3 is a huge number, and there's even like power links, which technically isn't a fated mate, but it kind of technically is. So it's sort of like a little spin on that.
I love that. I actually have a major, major nod in my book to Buffy, and I can't wait when my book comes out to see if people catch it. It's kind of hidden in there. Nobody's said anything yet, but we'll see. So now Leena's going to be going back through thinking about it. Not just Buffy, my favorite character from Buffy too, which you might be able to figure out if you've been following me for a long time. I think mine is a little similar to yours, Kara, in that like my book starts in the real world, is rooted in the real world, but I always knew that these like sleep hallucinations that my main character has were going to take her to or be a link to a fantasy world. And so for me, when I sat down to write it, the question in my mind was, what is this fantasy world going to look like, and how can I make it different from Prithian and all these other, Avalon and all these places that you've read in fantasy books, and these words that we hear over and over again because they do come from mythology. And so I started with research, which I think for folks who are like, where do I start with world building? Literary mug. Yes, it's Spike. That's my favorite character. I think he's everyone's favorite character. I think researching mythology is a great place to start and just see what myths speak to you. They don't have to be like traditional Greek mythology. It could be anything, Egyptian, Celtic, Norse, whatever. For me, I'd heard about Tir na Nog, this like Irish legend, land of the gods, but didn't really know much more than it was the name of a bar in New York City, but it intrigued me. And so I started researching it and learned that there's this whole race of godlike people called the Tuatha De Danann that the Celtic, ancient religions believed in. And it took me. It's like that was the thing that grabbed me. And from there, I was able to use some of those legends and kind of put my own spin on them. And so that really helped with the world building. And then also anagrams. Threllwood is an anagram almost for Otherworld. I like swapped one letter, but like when I figured that out, I was like, oh God, this is it. Like it's exciting when those things click. So I really suggest people like think about what they're into or do some research if you don't know and see what grabs you, because you'll know when you have like a spark that you can then build off of and then you can take it from there. So
I agree.
go ahead.
No, I was just
No,
going to
no.
say I agree with you. I grew up with Celtic, like mythology. That's really where my heart started, and then I ended up doing religious studies accidentally as a second BA when I went to college. And I specialized in world religions, not Western. So I have an interesting background of Yoruba and now I can't think of anything else. African.
And I will say this, like,
Eastern.
bringing in sorry to cut you
No,
off, Kara, bringing in the trad perspective, like when I was querying, a lot of agents are looking for fantasy books that are rooted in non-Western mythology or magic systems. Like the fact that I used Celtic mythology, even though so many people love it, was like the market's saturated. Versus, I kept thinking of Leena because her world is so rooted in like Arabic, Middle Eastern. Like I was like, oh, this is like an Aladdin and Jasmine retelling. If the story was more about Jasmine and she was such a badass, and I think people like those different perspectives.
I remember you telling me that when you were reading it the first time, like that agents are looking for things like that. That hit your mind even then.
Yes. Well, yes, because I've been doing this for what feels like eons. So we touched on this briefly, but like specifically talking about magic systems. And Leena, I love your POV on this because I feel like the magic is so subtly woven into your first book until sort of like the third act. So how did you think about like the role that magic was going to play in your book and rules, if any, for your magic system?
Yes. First, hi, Ariel. Thank you for joining. So when I wrote my book, I'm just going back a little bit, maybe 9 years now, someone ghosted me and I was really upset about it. And I wrote the first 3 chapters. I had no idea where the book was going at that time. At that point, it was just therapeutic for me to get my experience out. And I think it was more character driven at that time. Leena, I don't know if you guys saw the connection there, but it was very
No.
therapeutic for me. So I had no idea like what the overarching story was, and then it kind of, fell off, and I picked it back up maybe a year and a half ago, and I really thought about it, and I knew I wanted there to be magic, but I didn't want it to be so much that it was in their daily lives, right? Because that's super high fantasy, which is great. I love reading about it. I just wasn't ready to do that for my debut. So I wanted kind of just to, for my book, like we have a chosen one, and she has the magic. It's very limited, and in those kinds of instances, you think about how the world would react to that, right? It would be with fear. There's this one all powerful person. People are going to want to try and take this person down. It's this new crazy thing. The person might fight against it. They might resist it. Depending on what person it is, right? Maybe it would go to their head. Maybe they would misuse it. So just things like that I had to think about. Whereas versus like now in a top secret work in progress, I'm working on magic is more rooted in the entire world, right? Like it's a lot of people have magic, not everyone, but most people do in different ways, and it's more ingrained in their daily lives. Like how is it used for healing? Is it used, for infrastructure? How is it used in war, and what are the implications of it? So in that sense, when magic is more overarching, it has a different set of implications. So kind of just like, I think I read somewhere that, I spent more time world building than writing. And I can totally get that because you have to think about these things and how it impacts the world before you can actually kind of start to weave in those details.
Yes. And I think it brings up a really great point because like the questions around like how did you come up with the rules, and I think what you just said is so key. It's like there always has to be an implication or a trade-off. Otherwise, it's not interesting. Like if magic just fixed everything and made everything perfect, there would be no story. So what are the trade-offs for using magic? Is it, one thing is good and something else has to counteract it by being bad or being drained or something? What do you think, Kara? Did you think about that at all when you were creating your magic system?
Yes. It took me a little while to get there also, but I think that comes in the drafting process, which I feel like is a really boring answer. But like the first draft for me, you're just throwing down the bones and organizing them, and then you put the meat on, and then the skin and the makeup and everything like that. So a lot of my magic stuff, even the scents that I have, like each magic scent has a different scent. I knew that that's what I wanted, but I didn't write it down at first because there's so much you're throwing out at it. So I can't say enough about the drafting process. But yes, I think that that's one thing that it is really hard to always keep in consideration, because if magic's just like energy, right? Like, so if you do too much in one day, you're going to sleep for 3. So that's something to always keep in the back of my mind, because sometimes it is fun just to be like, have all the magic, but it doesn't create a compelling story.
I'm laughing because there's literally, and Leena knows this, a chapter in Kingdom of the Owl where the main character sleeps for 3 days because she does something that's very magically draining. I know it's maybe not what people want to hear, but I agree about world building coming in the drafting process. I guess there's a world where you could lead with the world building. You could figure all of that out ahead of time. But I think we all write very character driven fantasy, romantasy. And I think that that's where the appetite is right now in the market. I mean, there'll always be appetite, I guess, for fat fantasy and Brandon Sanderson type of stuff. But if you're writing more relationship character driven fantasy, then I think it's okay to figure out the world building as you go, and especially magic systems, because the magic can introduce tension, and so sometimes you figure out how that magic drives that tension as you're writing it. For me, I actually didn't realize I could always sleep for 3 days. I love it so much. The male main character in my book, I didn't like fully actually figure out his powers until I started book 2, and he was doing some stuff and I was like, oh, this makes total sense based on what kingdom he's from. I'm going to go back and add it into book 1. Mm-hmm. And for me, I created sort of different levels of like power based on bloodlines and like, if they were royalty or who they were descended from, what kingdom they lived in, like their powers would be different. So there's no one sort of like all powerful person. Even, people who have really strong powers can't do everything. So I think, just creating rules that make it interesting and introduce tension can really help make the magic system believable and compelling.
I just to jump off of that too, something you said really struck me, as when you were writing book 2, something like clicked into place so you could go fix that. Once the world and the magic is built, then you can start to play with the rules, right? Like, because I do have a complete system in place, but it's kind of like I know that there are chinks in the magic system, and the way that certain people see it isn't actually the way that it is. So it's fun to learn the rules, and then you can break them in really creative ways also.
I love that. Yes, that's amazing. So Leena, our next question from Kat Rogan. This is perfect for you because you are our organizational queen. What is your method for keeping track of everything, world building, rules, all of it?
Yes. So I do have a method. I have a giant Excel sheet for the Moon and Sand series so in the Moon and Sand series, there's so many kingdoms. I don't even know how many, maybe more than 10. And we see a lot more of them in the second book. And I mean, in a way. So I have an Excel grid where at the top I have all of the kingdoms going across, and in the columns I have things like, okay, who is the monarch? What are their royal colors? What's the landscape like? What language do they speak? What food do they eat? What, is there anything important we need to know about the people, like any cultural norms?
I love that.
Major holidays. and then and not all of those buckets are filled in because it might not be relevant, or it might be a kingdom that just, you know, gets mentioned once and never again. But as I'm writing, if I already know it, I'll fill it in. Or sometimes, you know, like Kara, like as you said, like, you know, sometimes things change as you're writing or you come up with new things. I will add to the grid just so it's helpful for me to go back. And then sometimes it happens the other way. Sometimes I make a conscious decision, like I need this kingdom to wear this color and be a mountain region, and then I'll weave the story around that. But it definitely helps in staying organized when you have a lot of kingdoms and a lot of characters.
I knew you had an Excel spreadsheet. I have an unhinged Google Doc that's like a Word document that is somewhat organized, but I wish it was more organized. And I actually asked ChatGPT to help me organize it at one point, and it like couldn't do it. It just freaked out. It totally broke it. So I'm like, all right, I guess this is like a problem for future me when I actually have like 10 hours to like restructure this, which will never happen. So I just use the find function, which is extremely helpful. What about you, Kara?
It's all in my head, except now, because I'm having all of these broken, like these novellas, all of these side characters are starting to have adventures, and I'm writing it down. I'm starting to forget, like, hey, what does this person smell like with their magic? What's going on? So I do have started a World Bible in a Google Sheet also. So, and then I'll have all of the different tabs, like what the characters are, what the story is, and different things like that. Because I have the big parts in the whole series. Like I know exactly what's going to happen. I know how it ends. I know all of that. But it's all of the little nuances that are coming out while I'm writing the story. Like you said, Christine, with book 2, something will click into place in one of the middle, the novellas that I write in the middle, and I'll have to go back and be like, okay, for this book, this has to happen and stuff. So it is time for me to write stuff down.
Yeah, you get to that point where you're like, I'm never going to remember all of this. And
remember
also, like, if you have to hire an editor or someone and they have a question, it's like, do you want to really have to go back and reread like 3 books you wrote to figure out the answer? Like, it's good to be organized, but it's hard to know where that line is.
Definitely.
My
So,
OCD is.
yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was just gonna say my OCD is also loving the organization breakdown.
Yeah, it is satisfying. It's very satisfying. So our next question is from Raven's Echo, and this is such a cool question, and it's a little abstract. So we can maybe break it down a little. How do you tackle big concepts and make them accessible on the page? And she gives an example. Her next work in progress is going to have multiple kingdoms, each with their own unique magic systems, economics, and cultures. It's daunting, but she knows it's been done before. It's possible. Like, how would we, or have we tackled that?
Okay, so start with an Excel grid. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, it works. If it works for you, it works for somebody else too. So it's always good.
I kind of like starting with a map, because I think if you can visually lay out the kingdoms, think about it in real life, like so much of political systems and how different kingdoms, cities, whatever countries work is based on their geography. So like for me, that was a big part of it. I have 4 kingdoms in my book. And one of them is like very mountainous. So I'm like, okay, well, they're going to be isolated, very self-contained. Maybe there's a lot of rumors about them because other people don't really know what's going on there, can't get through their borders. Another kingdom is full of like rivers and water. And so they don't really like need the other kingdoms because they can do a lot of trade, within their own kingdoms. The other 2 kingdoms share a border, share a ruler who took over. So it's like sometimes by creating a map, you can kind of like visually lay it out and then start to layer in the details and the geography all at the same time. So that would be my suggestion if you don't know where to start. What do you guys think?
I agree. I did mine a little bit different. I really started with the college and the city first, and then the Emberlands came in, not accidentally, but it surprised me. So, and then what I am finding, again, the more I'm writing, the more that the world is expanding. So I will have stuff that's happening in the Emberlands, but the Emberlands isn't the only kingdom in the world. I just don't know what's there yet. So it is all expanding, and I have a small town now where I'm going to do some fantasy small town romances. So that's expanding and stuff. So it doesn't answer the question. I don't think.
No, but that's okay. Because like think about like some of like the like Spark of the Everflame or I was gonna say my book name, but that's not what I meant. Like the ACOTAR books, you look at the map and it's not the whole world. It's just the part of the world that we're focused on. So you don't need to necessarily figure out like your book's the same way, Leena, right? I mean, how did you approach this?
So in my book, the first book, there is a map, and then I only have it focused on the part of the world we're talking about. And I have a little bit at the top cut off to kind of hint at where we're going to be going in the future. And then future maps will include that other area. Um, I kind of want to backtrack a little bit because I said start with the Excel grid, which I think is helpful, but also don't feel like you can't start writing just because you don't know everything. It's helpful to think about the implications, but if like say, so like this next work in progress that I'm working on, I knew the characters before I knew the land. I knew who the characters were and I knew what powers they needed to have. And then I kind of built the world around them. And then as I was writing, the pieces just started clicking more into place. Like the more time I spent with them in their worlds writing, the world building pieces kind of came together. That, oh, like this would happen in her life, or this would happen in his life based on, his powers and the environment. So it can feel daunting. It definitely feels daunting, but don't try to flush everything out if you're struggling with it before starting to write.
Yeah.
Just to say that too, like the more you start to trust yourself, the easier it's going to be just sort of to let things go. But you do have to sort of, like Leena said, you just kind of have to do it. And eventually, even though I feel like every time I write a chapter, I'm like, this is awful. I go back and then I read it. I'm like, okay, it's not that bad. But, you just kind of have to give yourself room to say this is awful and just keep going anyway.
It's so true. And I think Leena has triggered the entire internet. We just have to see the dog or his dog and we'll all know. We'll all know what it means. Some people are into that kind of thing, but
I
most
take
of us
no
are
responsibility. It wasn't me. I was just a vessel.
Yeah.
the vessel channeling. I just want to add to that, if you feel like you're still nervous about this and you want to have a more surefire method for world building, like make a list of all of the components of the world that you think are important to figure out, and you can Google this, or I'm sure there are plenty of templates out there, and just have it out while you're writing. And then when you get to the end, when you go back to edit, use it as a checklist. Have I touched on all of these things? Have I thought about all of these things? Maybe they don't all need to be in the book, but maybe you want to know what they all are, so that you can weave in little details, and the context is there if you need to reach for it. The literary mug just asked, where do you all get your ideas for world building? Like, was it from a movie or cartoon, TV series? Where does your inspiration come from? We talked a little bit about this in the beginning. 2-second recap is mine is from Celtic legends, the Tuatha De Danann, who lived in like an other world. It's an Irish legend. That's where mine came from.
Mine comes from loving the desert landscape and Middle Eastern Arab food and vibes.
Mine's a strange amalgam of like, I grew up reading Stephen King and The Babysitter's Club at the same time, so I have a really weird like landscape for and and if I like it, I like it, and if I don't, that's okay. But yeah, so I have a really interesting, or I have a really big interest in Eastern and world religions, so I learned a lot about that, and I just kind of funneled them into what I have.
That's great. It's like whatever works. And I think we have time for maybe one more question. I'm going to jump all the way to the end if that's okay with you guys, because I think we touched on a lot of like different things from other folks' questions here. And this question came from Melissa. She said, how far do you take and I love this question in general because of other books that I've read, not just what we're writing. How far do you take your creative liberties when designing lore, religion, culture around something that already exists or has a real life foundation that's crucial to your world? How do you balance what's believable / approachable to your reader with your creative spin?
That's a great question. Um, I think so for me, with my world being based in Arab and Middle Eastern culture, I didn't want to offend anybody. So that was kind of really important to me. I wanted to stay true to the culture. But my spin was more in the sense of magic. So I didn't change too much in terms of like clothing and even like language, like you'll see like I have in the food. I kept that, but put the fantasy spin with that. Like what would a fantasy world look like if we just took magic and just dropped it here? Or we went back like thousands of years. So that was my take on it. In this new world, it's not really inspired, I would say, by a particular culture. So I don't know actually if it applies too much to that.
And for anyone who might think, oh, if I just like lift this culture or lift this legend or lift whatever, it's like appropriating it or misappropriating it. Like counterpoint to that, I feel like I learned more about the nuances and like degrees and layers, shades within Middle Eastern culture from reading Leena's book, especially the second one, because I could feel that like you had pulled from the real differences of how different countries dress, eat, interact, like even some of the stuff around like a face covering versus a head covering versus nothing on a woman. It just added so much richness to it and felt so real, but at no point was I like, oh, she like ripped off like this real
Mm-hmm.
culture that does this. It
Oh,
just it felt appropriate.
okay.
So yeah.
Well, and even the plumbing, that was a thing. That's like something like that was something that I was never gonna think about ever, just because that wasn't. I thought that was a really interesting difference.
Can
And
I can I tell you about the plumbing actually?
Plumbing
So
fantasy books,
so
we love it.
so I had my brother-in-law Alpha beta read my first book, and he reads fantasy, but he doesn't read romantasy. So one, I was so nervous giving it to him, but I wanted to get his take on it. And one, he had like this long list of questions for me, which was really helpful in the world building areas where I hadn't thought about. Like there was this one scene, like a flashback where some characters are playing a game, and he was like, I would really love to know more of the rules of this game. And I was focused more like on what's happening with the characters, and he was like, well, what are they doing? And I was like, I could probably add that in another sentence or two and just make the scene feel
Mhm.
more real. But there's this one scene that he mentions. He's like, so you mentioned Zari, and he goes to take a shower and he puts on cold water. That implies there's hot water. How is the water heated? And I
I
was like,
love it.
oh, that's like, did you read about their first kiss? Like that's your question.
How does the water get to the desert and do they have irrigation? Oh my gosh. But some
So
people will ask, my husband is like that. I mean, my snarky advice this question is just ask my husband because he will poke holes in all kinds of stuff like that. A good beta reader can help you figure out where you maybe have taken too many creative liberties or not enough in explaining how things work. What do you think, Kara?
Well, just because it jogged one of my memories when I had a really amazing developmental editor who was not helping me developmentally. She was doing this manuscript review with me, and at one point, my character throws up on her mother's feet, and she like then they move to a different side, and then she was like, "Well, who cleans up the vomit?" That doesn't matter for your story to move forward. I just want to know. So there are different things where people are just curious and they will point that out, and they're just little. And I didn't know who cleaned up the vomit. I was like, they're outside. Nobody. So
By the way, I love that your readers are in the chat right now, like canon, like quoting the actual infrastructure of Al Zahara. Like they know they are in it. They probably have the Bible memorized up here of your Excel doc. Yeah, and I think listen, I think take the liberties that you want to take, pull from those cultures or those existing systems that inspire you, and your beta readers will tell you if something is taken too far and it's triggering. I think you can probably take it further than you think. I mean, I literally lifted the names of my kingdoms from the Celtic legends, right? And like some direct like backstory specific myths I lifted and then just tweaked a little bit. And I mean, Akatar is literally the original Beauty and the Beast fairy tale. Like, I just read the French version to my 8-year-old for book report. And Belle had 2 sisters and a dad that went off on a ship, and the ship got lost, and then it mysteriously came back. And I was like, whoa, this is like way more ripped off than I ever knew. And it's the best selling fantasy book of the past 10 years. So you can go further than you think, I think, with this one.
You can also, if you're.
Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead, Kara.
No, you're fine.
I was going to say, if you're concerned about using a real life culture or a real life religion, write it to what feels right for you. But also, when you're getting beta readers or alpha readers, you can specifically look for a sensitivity reader who embodies that culture or experience better than you, and get their real life lived perspective to make sure you're doing justice to it, especially if it's not something that applies to you.
100%.
The Little
That's
Mermaid.
really critical, I think, actually, especially in this day and age, critical.
Yes, it is. And that's all good stuff too. Like,
all right. So should we end on this? Let's in a sentence. What's your favorite part of world building? And then we'll sign off with that. Leena, go ahead. You go first.
My favorite, I didn't mention this earlier, but my favorite part of world building is coming up with curses. Like,
oh no, I think we lost you. You broke up a little bit. Say it again, Leena.
Oh no. Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
My favorite part of world building is coming up with curse words for this new world.
I love that. I'm so bad at that. I love that so much. What about you, Kara?
I do love coming up with curse words as well, because it's fun to do some of that stuff. But I really just like unfolding the new stuff, like the little mysterious stuff that pops out sort of at the last minute, and finding those little teeny tiny pieces that go in that just sort of make the whole thing sort of that much more rich.
My answer is that I just love getting to build a world that I would love to live in and have an adventure in, and then just getting to go hang out there. Like, I literally feel like I am hanging out in Thrallwood when I'm or even now I'm writing a book set in Old Town Alexandria, and I'm just leaning into all the most beautiful details of that part of Virginia, and it's like, I love it. I love getting to live in that fantasy.
That's awesome.
All right. So we always close on a call to action, just sort of like where you can find us, what we'd love if you enjoyed this for you to do. I mean, follow, save, share this with your writer friends for sure. I think, I saw a couple people started following us during this. Thank you guys. We love that so much. We want you to be here for these great sessions and give us your questions so we can answer them. Leena, any calls to action from you?
Well, a lot of you guys on here are on my street team, so just wanted to say thank you. I love you. I appreciate you. And thank you so much for supporting me. Outside of my street team, thank you so much for joining and listening to us. We love what we do, and we love finding people who love what we do. So that's amazing. That's all. Are your ARCs still open, Leena, or have they closed? Oh, they are still open. Thank you for that. Go sign up for Leena's ARC. ARC applications for my second book are open until tomorrow. Please find the link in my bio and apply. Copies of my first book will be provided. There we go. All right, what about you, Kara?
I'm kind of in the same boat. My ARCs are closing tomorrow also. I am giving out review. Oh, never mind. That's over too. Never mind. Thanks for following and listening and being here. I don't have one today. Go on Goodreads and put The Moon's Fury and Ashes Fall at Dawn. Do I have that right? That is. It's not there yet. I have to put it in description. All right. We'll keep an eye out. Add them to your TBRs. And it's always easier to toot other people's horns than your own, so I'll do that. Because my book's not out yet. It is still on submission. So follow me, follow for the journey, stick with me, help me manifest a book deal. And I hope everyone has a great weekend. Hope it's sunny and lovely wherever you are.
Thank you. Thank you.
And thank you so
This
much,
was
Leena,
so
for
much
being here. Thank you,
fun.
guys.
Thank you guys so much for having me. I love chatting with you guys.
All right, we'll do it again soon. Bye,
Thank
guys.
you. Bye.
Bye.